This episode is about the number 4 team on the Juggernaut Index, the Dallas Cowboys. The Juggernaut Index is a forward-looking series, so let's begin our Dallas preview with a prediction. Dez Bryant is going to be a consensus top 5 fantasy wide receiver in 2011. That isn't to say he'll actually finish among the top 10 scorers at his position as a rookie, but if Bryant is healthy, he's going to be ridiculously impressive and will all project a second-year leap. Next season, if you want the guy, you'll have to target him in round 3. By the time the Cowboys head into their Week 4 bye this year, you will already be disgusted with yourself for not owning him in more leagues. At his current average draft position of 87.6, Bryant is a steal. This is an impact player. Bryant is a physical receiver, explosive, deceptive, dominant on jump balls, and he makes degree of difficulty catches appear routine. He was easily the best wideout in his draft class. As a sophomore at Oklahoma State in 2008, he had 87 receptions for 1,480 yards, and he caught 19 of his team's 25 passing touchdowns. His junior season began well enough, but ended prematurely thanks to a remarkably harsh ruling by the NCAA. Before you miss Bryant's rookie year potential, at least check the tape. He may have slipped to pick 24 on draft day due to character concerns, as if the rest of the NFL were just a big milk-drinking Kansas scout troop, but on skill, he was clearly a top 10 player. He's exactly the sort of fantasy commodity you should all reach for at the draft table. No, I don't think Bryant in 2010 is going to be like Randy Moss in 1998. The comparison is basically unavoidable. We're all supposed to believe that the Bryant pick was simply a way for Jerry Jones to expel the old Moss demons. The Cowboys famously passed on Moss, and then he torched them on Thanksgiving, and now, of course, he's heading to Canton. That's hardly fair to Dez. As Jones himself said back in April, Dez Bryant stands on his own. His production stands on his own, his unique ability to run after the catch. I didn't need the encouragement to revisit Randy Moss and anything I regretted there. Head coach Wade Phillips hasn't exactly been reserved in his praise for Bryant. These were his comments after his first day of Cowboys training camp. Bryant looks as good as any player at any position on the first day, as anybody I've seen in a long time. Once more, before we move on, Dez is exceptional. It's perfectly fine to have a bias against rookie receivers. In fact, I've written that position paper a few times myself. But the Bryant case, we have an uncommonly talented player joining an elite offense and fitting in well. Even if you're not ready to pencil him in as a number 1 receiver on your 2011 draft board, you have to acknowledge that his 2010 price tag is inviting. Bryant has recovered from his high ankle sprain he suffered in July, so don't fret about his health. Roy Williams is dealing with a medley of physical problems at the moment, which helps Bryant's cause in the near term. Make sure you purchase a few shares of number 88 while they're still affordable. Miles Austin certainly isn't a bargain anymore, not after his absurd breakout season in 2009. The Cowboys were slow to recognize that he deserved more targets than either Williams or Patrick Creighton, but eventually they got it right. Austin destroyed the Chiefs in Week 5, hauling in 10 receptions for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, leaving behind a trail of failed tacklers. He starred in Dallas' next game too, burning the Falcons for 171 yards and 2 scores. Austin closed the year with at least 6 catches in each of his final 6 contests, topping 90 yards 5 times during that stretch. He enters 2010 as the number 7 receiver in the composite ranks, a spot he may cede to Bryant next year. But this offense can support a pair of must-start wideouts. Dallas' passing attack was ranked among the top 10 in 4 straight seasons. Creighton's agent reportedly asked for his client's release prior to the roster deadline, for what it's worth. Creighton would otherwise be an overpaid number 4 receiver for the Cowboys. Right now, Sam Hurd and Kevin Ogletree are behind him on the depth chart. Dallas is maddeningly pot committed with Williams, so he's not going anywhere. Update: a few hours after the Dallas Juggernaut Index was posted, Creighton was dealt to the Chargers, reportedly for a 7th round pick. This is not a rush to add fantasy event, though Creighton's path to targets is slightly less cluttered in San Diego. Jason Witten is coming off a 94 reception, 1,030 yard season, but he somehow finished with only 2 touchdowns last year. During the offseason, Phillips admitted that the team shouldn't have gotten away from using the Pro Bowl tight end in the red zone. Witten will, of course, remain a heavily targeted receiver, and you can expect his scoring opportunities to increase. He's the 5th tight end off the board and average draft ADP of 60.6. At that price, he isn't likely to disappoint. Last season, Tony Romo established new personal highs in quarterback rating 97.6, passing yards 4,483, and playoff wins 1. After tossing 3 picks in week 2, Romo threw just 6 more interceptions over his final 14 games, en route to a career-best interception percentage of 1.63. That seems like progress. At age 30, Romo is at the controls of a loaded offense that returns all of its key pieces. There are questions on the offensive line where Doug Free replaces Flozell Adams at left tackle, but no one should doubt the talent at the skill spots in Dallas. Anything short of a deep Romo-led playoff run will be a real-life disappointment. Anything short of 4,200 yards and 25 touchdowns will be a fantasy disappointment. No pressure, Tony. In fantasy drafts, either Romo or Matt Schaub or Phillip Rivers will be the 7th quarterback selected, and that will be the clear end of the tier. There's a 30-pick gap in ADP between the number 7 and number 8 quarterbacks in recent action at the MDC. The Cowboys had the league's 7th best ground game in 2009, but there's redundancy built into the system. With Felix Jones, Marion Barber, and Tashard Choice on the roster, this team features 3 backs who each gained at least 4.4 yards per carry last year. If you're a Dallas fan, you have to be excited about the depth at running back. Fantasy owners tend to view roster depth as a nuisance, however. We dread the committee, but that's what this pileup appears to be. Jones is a thrilling edge runner, a big play waiting to happen. Barber is as violent and reckless as any back in the NFL. Here's Jerry Jones describing the Barbarian style. His liability is that he will never not be physical. You have to worry about his ability to get through a season. He doesn't get any free stuff. There's always something happening at the beginning, in the middle, and the end of every damn run. Too true. Here's a sample carry that proves Jerry's point. MB3 and Felix both have their loyalists within the fantasy community, but these 2 players should split the workload, with Choice cleaning up the scraps. Barber seems like a low-risk play at his current ADP of 59.0, and he's only 2 seasons removed from a 12 TD campaign. Jones is the more expensive draft day option. ADP of 42.7 because of his per-touch effectiveness is insane, but as Doug Farrar told us recently, Choice could be the featured back for several franchises right now. Bottom line, I won't attempt to talk you out of drafting any member of this high-yield group. I've invested in Barber in several leagues, arguably too many, but that's generally been about the price of the player relative to his scoring potential. The Dallas defense closed 2009 season impressively, allowing just 17 points on the Saints in Week 15, then posting shutouts in Week 16 and 17. It's hardly a surprise to see them ranked as a top 10 fantasy D. This unit has talent at every level and a pair of excellent IDPs in defensive lineman Jay Ratliff and linebacker DeMarcus Ware. The Cowboys limited opponents to just 15.6 yards per game last season, ranking 2nd in the league. Defensive scoring is notoriously difficult to predict, but the Dallas team defense looks like a useful fantasy asset. We almost never discuss kickers here, but David Buehler probably deserves a mention. He's tied to a high-scoring offense, he can hit from long range, and he's buried in the ranks. And if we're talking about kicker sleepers, then we've probably well past time to yield the floor to the commenters. Have at it, gamers. Be kind to Dez.